Welcome back to Good Morning Oakcrest. You are watching Author Showcase here on the morning show, and with me today is Miss Emani C. White. She joins me as author as well as founder of a nonprofit organization entitled In My Sister's Shadow. And with that, we say good morning.
Good morning.
Very nice to have you on the morning show. And unlike most guests that I have on the show, you are from Washington, D.C.
Wow. Yay, Washington.
Yay, Washington. Most folks are from Baltimore here.
Oh,
So it's good
okay,
to
okay.
expand our borders and have you come from the DC area. So tell us first about your background and then we'll get started about your book and all.
As you said, I am born and raised Washington, D.C. My parents moved to Maryland, so I actually grew up in Seabrook area, and I attended Duval High School, which
Duval.
is still pumping.
Yeah.
And I'm married. I am the mother of 3 wonderful children, all grown. Yay! And I have 2 grandchildren. My grandson Emmanuel and my newly born granddaughter Zari.
Very nice. Okay, so born in Washington D.C. as well.
Yes.
Raised, went to school in Washington D.C. And what do you do from day to day? What's a typical day like for you?
Typical day, typical day. Get up, go to work, come back home, get up, go to work. But I am
where do you
I work with Wendy H. Schwartz and Associates, and that's a family law firm. I am the office administrator there.
Very good. All right. Well, Ms. White, we thank you so much for coming on Author Showcase because you are an author.
Yes.
Published work, your first book,
Yes.
entitled You Are God's Diamond. Now, a lot of history goes into this work, right?
Yes.
The book comes with your background as well,
Yes.
or your testimony, as most folks would say. So give us the process of how this book came to be.
Your God's Diamond is a book that God inspired me to do because of where I was in life. For many, many years, I mean, I've had a lot of what I call pit situations. And by that, I mean situations that have the potential to tear your life apart. But there was one pit situation that has been with me for so long. And that pit situation was the situation between me and my mom. I actually got to a point where I felt that she did not love me.
Wow.
And it took me in so many different directions. It caused me to do different things. It caused me to look at things differently, live my life differently, and some of it was very destructive, you know, constantly looking for something that I felt I did not get or wasn't getting from her. And so finally I got to a point where I didn't want to live. You know, and it wasn't just that pit situation, but when you have pit situations that you don't deal with and other situations come along, it pushes you over. Somewhere along the line, you have to get relief. You have to get peace. You have to come to terms. I went to therapy several different times, but it was until I went to a religious-based therapy session with a particular minister that I began to see a way out of it. And she made me have to deal with that one pit situation. Even though I had many, she knew the core of it came from the one pit situation. So I began to work some steps, which is what You Are God's Diamond is about. It's 6 steps to walking out of painful situations. Doesn't matter what those situations are, you still have to apply those same 6 steps, you know, to walk out of it. And once I was able to walk out of that and be okay, I was able to fix the other situations.
Emani, We all have dysfunctional families.
Yes.
I'm proud to say I'm from one. And I don't know anybody else
Hello.
who's not from a
Yeah.
dysfunctional family. How do you, how did you come to the place where you forgave your family members for the hurt and the pain that you went through?
I I had to do it struggling at 1st because every part of me wanted to say, I don't deserve it, and why can't you go get them, and why don't you deal with them? I haven't done anything. I don't deserve this. But then he kept bringing it back to me. I'm not sending you for them. Forgiveness is about you. Forgiveness is for you. Forgiveness is so that I can rain those blessings on you. As long as you harbor the anger and the bitterness and the wanting revenge, I can't do what I need to do in you. It's this whole thing of healing you has nothing to do with them. It's about you.
So when you took that advice from God, you know, some people struggle right there because that means a decision, you know, has
Exactly.
to be made. Do I forgive or do I cause revenge?
Exactly.
And I mean, sometimes we have to be honest. Sometimes revenge might sound like the better way to go, but you chose to say, you know what, I leave that portion over to God.
I had to walk into it blindly. I had to say, okay, God, you say revenge, because just because you say I forgive doesn't mean you forgive it here.
So it's
It's
a
a
process.
process.
Okay.
It's a process. So each day I said, okay, God, I forgive her. And I also took my blame in it, because it's not always this one-sided thing. There are things that I did because I felt that way that were not right. So I had to take ownership of my part. And when I take ownership of my part, that means who am I not to forgive? Because someone has to forgive me for the things I've done. And God has to forgive me for the things I've done. So each day he showed me a different way to look at it. Don't look at it. You keep looking at the pain, but you don't look at where he wants to take you. And to me, it was more important where he wanted to take me than what I was leaving behind me.
Question for you. You were in this tough spot. You know, most or some folks would abuse or use the opportunity to abuse certain substances or do whatever. What led you to God? What was, why did you go or choose to go to a more religious source than something else?
I don't know that. I think more so because I've always been raised in a religious home. So religion has always been important to me. God has always been important to me, even though I didn't pay him as much attention because I didn't like the way things were going, and I just felt like he wasn't answering my prayers. And trust me when I tell you, I fired and hired him on a regular. I don't think alcohol and drugs was a thing for me, but sleeping around or doing other things was a part of what was too much for me. You know, you can be addicted to a lot of things.
True.
And my vice was to look for love in the wrong places.
Because that was a void that you said
Exactly,
you
trying
had
to fill.
from home.
Not only that, I got to a point where I was always looking for this mother figure.
Okay.
My girlfriends' mothers. I was always trying to cling. And two of them, there are two mothers that allowed me to cling, and they were good mother figures for me. But you're constantly yearning. I think it's in us to want the love of our mother and our father. I deal with, I've gone to several shelters and different things, and when I do self-esteem classes, I am just blown with what they put for their reasons of why they are where they are, why they are hurting. And a lot of it is my mother didn't love me. My father wasn't there.
Root and fundamental type stuff
Exactly.
that can cause a train wreck in some folks' lives.
You start veering off because
Wow.
the main thing that should be there is that first love that you feel. And my mother and I, you know, we're much better now, I will say. And I'm sure when it came a point where I had a part of your healing is you have to face that demon. So I had to go face her. And I had to hear what she had to say. And I had to know that when I went, no matter what she said, I was going to be all right with it. Because she's entitled to her side of it. And I'm entitled to mine. I let her know what I felt. She let me know what she felt. We don't necessarily agree on all, but it is what it is. And my goal was to go in and come out and be okay.
We're talking with Emani C. White. She's an author, prophet. She's all that and more, really. I'm just excited to have her on the show with us. And she's talking to us about her background, her work as an author, as well as coming up on Good Morning Oakcrest. She'll talk about her organization, which is a nonprofit one, and it's called In My Sister's Shadow. So you'll get to see and hear a lot about that organization in just a little bit. Continue watching Channel 973 here on Good Morning Oakcrest.